What is happening right now across hip-hop circles is not just another documentary leak or a short-lived social media controversy. It has become something much larger, a full-scale debate about who controls narrative, how stories are shaped, and what happens when real-life artists see themselves portrayed in ways they did not expect. At the center of it all stands 50 Cent, a figure long known for turning real-world tension into compelling public storytelling, now once again at the heart of an industry-wide conversation. The situation began quietly enough. A set of documentary clips, reportedly never intended for public release, started circulating online. At first, they seemed like harmless fragments, behind-the-scenes moments, candid interactions, and unfiltered conversations involving several well-known figures in hip-hop. But almost immediately after they appeared, the tone around them shifted. What was once private content quickly became public evidence, and what was once controlled storytelling turned into open interpretation. As soon as those clips leaked, reactions began forming in real time. Some artists allegedly felt surprised, even blindsided, claiming that the footage did not reflect how they believed the final product would represent them. Others suggested that context was missing, or that certain moments were arranged in a way that altered their meaning. Whether those claims are fully accurate or not remains unclear, but what is certain is that the perception of misrepresentation spread quickly, and perception in this era often matters more than fact. Social media, as expected, accelerated everything. Platforms like X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube became instant reaction hubs. Within hours, the leaked footage was being replayed, slowed down, dissected, and reinterpreted from multiple angles. Some users focused on tone and facial expressions. Others zoomed in on editing choices, sequencing, and framing. What began as short clips soon evolved into a massive collective investigation, where millions of users attempted to reconstruct meaning from fragments. But the controversy is not simply about what was shown. It is about who is showing it and why. That is where 50 Cent's involvement becomes central. Over the course of his career, he has built a reputation not just as a rapper, but as a strategist in entertainment storytelling. From music to television to film production, he has consistently positioned himself as someone who understands how narratives move through culture. He knows how to generate attention, how to amplify tension, and how to turn moments into conversations that dominate public discourse. Because of that history, this documentary project is being viewed through a much more critical lens. For many observers, it is not just a film, it is a narrative construction. And in any narrative construction, decisions must be made. What is included, what is excluded, what is emphasized, and what is left ambiguous. Those decisions, when applied to real people and real histories, can become highly sensitive. According to online discussions and unverified reports circulating across platforms, some artists featured in the documentary were not expecting certain clips to appear in the form they did. Some believed they were participating in a project that would present a balanced or controlled perspective. Instead, leaked fragments suggest that certain scenes may highlight tension, contradiction, or conflict more strongly than expected. That perceived gap between expectation and outcome is where frustration appears to be building. For artists, this issue is deeply personal. A documentary is not just media, it is legacy. It is a chance to define how one's journey is remembered. In an industry where image and reputation carry enormous weight, losing control over that representation can feel significant. Even a small shift in framing can change how audiences interpret entire careers. As a result, some artists reportedly expressed concern privately before anything reached the public. These early reactions were not necessarily confrontational, but cautious. Questions were raised about tone, sequencing, and context. Was the footage being presented in a way that aligned with the intent of participation, or was it being shaped into something more dramatic for audience impact? Once the clips leaked publicly, however, those private concerns turned into public discussion. At that point, control over the narrative began to slip away from everyone involved. The internet filled the gap immediately. Short clips circulated without full context. Commentary accounts added interpretation. Influencers created breakdown videos. Fans began connecting dots across unrelated interviews, old appearances, and historical moments. Suddenly, this was no longer just about a documentary. It became a wider conversation about hip-hop history, relationships, and unresolved tensions within the industry. One of the most powerful dynamics in this situation is how quickly interpretation replaced information. Very few people had access to the full documentary. Even fewer knew the complete context of the leaked scenes. Yet millions formed strong opinions based on fragments. This is the modern media cycle at its most intense. Incomplete information becoming widely accepted narrative. As theories multiplied, so did emotional responses. Some viewers believed the documentary was exposing hidden truths that had never been publicly acknowledged. Others believed it was unfairly framing artists in ways that exaggerated conflict or misrepresented intent. Both interpretations gained traction simultaneously, creating a split narrative that continues to grow. Meanwhile, silence from some involved figures added another layer of complexity. In entertainment controversies, silence is rarely seen as neutral. It is interpreted. For some, it suggests legal caution or strategic restraint. For others, it signals disagreement or dissatisfaction. In this case, the lack of immediate unified statements has allowed speculation to expand even further. In the middle of all this sits 50 Cent's reputation, which significantly shapes how the situation is understood. He is not viewed as a passive filmmaker. He is seen as someone who understands the power of controversy in driving attention. That perception alone changes how every decision in the documentary is interpreted. Even neutral edits can be viewed as strategic choices when associated with a figure known for narrative control. This is why the reaction has been so intense. It is not just about content, it is about trust. Trust in representation, trust in framing, trust in whether participants' stories are being told as they intended. The situation also reflects a broader reality in modern entertainment: the collapse of clear boundaries between private production and public consumption. In earlier eras, documentaries were finalized before being widely seen. Today, leaks can reshape the meaning of a project before its official release even happens. A few short clips can redefine audience expectations entirely. Once that happens, control becomes almost impossible to recover. At the same time, industry observers are pointing out that this controversy may not be solely about editing or narrative framing. It may also be revealing deeper, long-standing tensions within the hip-hop world. Old rivalries, unresolved disagreements, and competing interpretations of history can resurface quickly when sensitive material is exposed. In that sense, the documentary is not creating conflict. It may simply be revealing what was already there. This is part of why the conversation has become so layered. It is not just one dispute. It is multiple conversations happening at once, about storytelling ethics, about artist representation, about media influence, and about historical legacy. As discussion continues online, the analysis grows more detailed. Fans slow down clips to study facial expressions. Others compare different segments to detect editing patterns. Some attempt to map relationships between individuals involved, building timelines that stretch back years. Whether accurate or not, these interpretations contribute to the expanding narrative ecosystem surrounding the project. Entertainment media has also amplified the situation. Commentary channels frame the story as a major industry moment, not just a minor leak. Headlines focus on controversy, tension, and potential fallout. Every new reaction or rumor becomes additional fuel for discussion. The story evolves not in one direction, but in many competing directions at once. What makes this particularly significant is the role of perception in shaping outcomes. Even without full confirmation of facts, reputations can shift. Interpretations can solidify into belief, and belief can become accepted narrative long before official clarification arrives. That is the environment this documentary now exists in. For 50 Cent, this moment reinforces both his influence and the scrutiny that comes with it. His ability to generate attention is undeniable, but so is the sensitivity surrounding how that attention is created. When storytelling involves real people and real histories, every decision carries weight far beyond entertainment value. As things stand, no final version of the documentary has fully clarified what the leaked footage represents in its complete context. Artists are still evaluating their responses. Fans are still analyzing fragments, and commentators are still debating intent versus impact. The result is a story that remains open-ended. And in that openness, the controversy continues to grow. Because in today's digital landscape, stories do not end when filming stops or even when editing begins. They evolve the moment they are seen, shared, and interpreted. And once that process starts, no single creator, no matter how influential, can fully control where the narrative goes next. What we are witnessing is not just a documentary leak. It is a live demonstration of how modern storytelling works when control, perception, and public reaction collide in real time. And as more material potentially surfaces, that collision is far from over. The controversy surrounding 50 Cent's documentary escalated rapidly after leaked footage began circulating online, featuring multiple prominent figures in hip-hop. What initially appeared to be private, controlled material quickly became a public spectacle, triggering widespread debate about narrative control, editorial responsibility, and the power dynamics behind modern storytelling. With no official clarification from key parties, speculation filled the gap, turning fragments of content into a full-scale cultural discussion. At the center of the debate is a fundamental tension between participation and presentation. Many of the artists involved reportedly believed their contributions would be framed within a controlled and contextualized narrative that accurately reflected their perspectives. Instead, leaked segments suggest that certain moments may have been highlighted or sequenced in ways that emphasize tension, disagreement, or contradiction. This perceived disconnect has fueled frustration among some participants, who feel the final presentation may not align with their intended portrayal. As soon as clips surfaced on social media, the situation intensified. What began as isolated reactions quickly transformed into a broader industry conversation. Artists reportedly reviewed the footage privately, discussing how specific scenes might be interpreted by the public. Some expressed concern that context had been stripped away, while others questioned whether certain edits altered the meaning of interactions entirely. These private concerns soon expanded into public discourse as clips spread across platforms like X, TikTok, and YouTube. Social media became the main arena for interpretation and debate. Fans analyzed every detail: tone, facial expressions, pauses, and sequencing, attempting to reconstruct meaning from incomplete fragments. Commentary creators amplified the discussion further by offering frame-by-frame breakdowns and speculative analysis. In many cases, interpretations varied widely, with some viewers seeing evidence of hidden conflict, while others argued that the footage was being overanalyzed and taken out of context. A key factor driving the controversy is uncertainty. With only partial footage available, audiences are left to interpret incomplete narratives. This lack of clarity has created a feedback loop in which speculation fuels engagement, and engagement fuels further speculation. Every new clip, reaction, or alleged insider claim adds another layer to an already complex situation, making it increasingly difficult to separate fact from interpretation. 50 Cent's involvement significantly amplifies the stakes. Known for his dual identity as both an artist and a strategic storyteller, He has built a career around shaping narratives and turning real-life dynamics into public discussion points. His history of provocative media projects and willingness to challenge industry norms has earned him both admiration and criticism. In this case, his role as a central figure in the documentary has intensified scrutiny, with some praising the project's transparency and others questioning its editorial direction. Critics argue that when documentaries involve real people with established reputations, editorial decisions carry serious consequences. The way moments are framed, edited, or emphasized can directly influence public perception. In an industry like hip-hop, where image, legacy, and authenticity are critical, these choices are especially sensitive. Even subtle shifts in context can reshape how audiences interpret relationships, conflicts, and personal histories. Supporters of the project, however, see it differently. They argue that the documentary offers a rare, unfiltered glimpse into behind-the-scenes realities that are often hidden from public view. From this perspective, the leaked footage is not distortion, but exposure, revealing dynamics that are typically controlled or softened in official narratives. This divide in interpretation has created a polarized response across fan communities. As discussions expanded, some artists began reevaluating their involvement in the project. Reports suggest that private conversations emerged regarding consent, framing, and editorial control. Concerns centered on whether participants had full awareness of how their footage would be used and whether the final product accurately reflected their intentions. While no official statements have confirmed these discussions, industry chatter indicates that the situation is being closely monitored behind the scenes. The controversy also highlights broader issues in modern media production. Documentaries are often perceived as objective, but in reality they involve significant editorial shaping, decisions about what to include, what to exclude, and how to sequence events inevitably influence meaning. When subjects are high-profile figures with complex histories, these decisions become even more consequential, as they can reshape public understanding of personal and professional relationships. Social media has played a critical role in accelerating the controversy. Platforms have transformed isolated clips into viral narratives within hours. Once uploaded, fragments of footage are quickly dissected, reposted, and reinterpreted across communities. Influencers and commentary channels contribute to this cycle by providing analysis that often blends observation with speculation. As a result, the boundary between fact and interpretation becomes increasingly blurred. Fan communities have also contributed to the unfolding narrative by revisiting past interviews, performances, and public statements. Many users attempt to connect historical events to the current controversy, suggesting that long-standing tensions may now be resurfacing. Whether or not these connections are accurate, they add depth to the ongoing discussion and reinforce the idea that the current situation is part of a larger, unresolved pattern within the industry. Silence from some involved figures has further fueled speculation. In the absence of direct statements, audiences often interpret silence as strategic, either a sign of caution, legal consideration, or preparation for a future response. This ambiguity allows multiple interpretations to coexist, each shaping public perception in different ways. As a result, even non-action becomes part of the narrative. At its core, this controversy is not just about leaked footage. It reflects deeper questions about who controls storytelling in the entertainment industry. When multiple influential figures are involved, each with their own history, image, and audience, narrative authority becomes a contested space. The way stories are framed can influence careers, shape legacies, and redefine public memory. Insiders suggest that the situation is still evolving. Additional footage or context may surface, potentially reshaping current interpretations. Artists involved are reportedly weighing their responses carefully, aware that any public statement could shift the direction of the conversation. This cautious approach reflects the high stakes involved, where perception can change rapidly based on a single clip or comment. The broader implications of the controversy extend beyond this single documentary. It raises important questions about ethics in storytelling, particularly when real people are portrayed in ways that may affect their reputations. It also highlights the tension between artistic freedom and personal representation, two forces that often collide in projects involving real-life figures. As the discussion continues, one thing remains clear: the narrative is still incomplete. Each new development has the potential to alter public understanding, whether through additional leaks, clarifications, or official responses. Until then, speculation will continue to dominate the conversation, driven by fragmented content and competing interpretations. Ultimately, the situation surrounding 50 Cent's documentary demonstrates how fragile narrative control can be in the digital age. Once content enters the online space, it becomes subject to reinterpretation, amplification, and debate. What was once a controlled story becomes a living, evolving conversation shaped by audiences as much as creators. This ongoing controversy reflects a larger reality within hip-hop and modern media. Storytelling is no longer one-directional. It is participatory, contested, and constantly evolving. And in this environment, even a single clip can reshape perception, challenge reputations, and ignite widespread cultural debate. At the center of the controversy lies a fundamental disconnect between participation and presentation. Many artists involved reportedly entered the documentary project with the expectation that their contributions would be shaped within a controlled, contextualized narrative framework, one that accurately reflected their viewpoints, intentions, and personal experiences. However, leaked segments circulating online suggest a very different outcome. Moments that were once considered minor or routine now appear to have been emphasized in ways that highlight disagreement, tension, or misalignment. In an industry where perception and public image carry immense weight, even subtle shifts in framing can produce major consequences, influencing reputations, fan interpretation, and professional relationships. As these clips spread rapidly across social media platforms, private concerns reportedly began escalating behind the scenes. Artists and their representatives are said to have reviewed the leaked material carefully, analyzing how each moment might be interpreted once exposed to a global audience. Discussions reportedly centered around issues such as consent, editorial control, and whether clarifications or corrections would be necessary before the documentary's full release. These internal conversations reflected a growing unease about how selectively framed content might reshape public understanding of already sensitive relationships and histories. At the same time, the public reaction intensified. Fans dissected the footage frame by frame, focusing on tone, phrasing, facial expressions, and even pauses between dialogue. What might have been a fleeting interaction in real time became, through repetition and analysis, a focal point for interpretation and speculation. Commentary creators and social media influencers amplified the discussion further, offering breakdowns that often varied widely in conclusion. Some interpreted the material as evidence of underlying tension, while others argued that the clips lacked necessary context and risked distorting reality. 50 Cent's involvement adds a significant and unavoidable layer of complexity to the situation. As both a successful artist and a media strategist, he has built a reputation for shaping narratives in ways that generate attention, provoke discussion, and challenge established perspectives. His influence extends beyond music into television, film, and broader cultural storytelling. Supporters argue that his presence ensures authenticity and transparency, suggesting that the documentary offers an unfiltered look into aspects of the hip-hop industry that are rarely seen by the public. Critics, however, raise concerns about editorial bias, questioning whether one individual should hold such influence over how multiple artists' stories are presented and interpreted. Reports emerging from industry circles suggest that the backlash may not be limited to isolated reactions. Some artists are reportedly reconsidering their involvement in the project entirely, concerned that their contributions may have been misrepresented or reframed in ways that alter their original intent. Others are allegedly evaluating how future collaborations will be handled, particularly in relation to consent, narrative framing, and contractual clarity. What initially appeared to be a contained issue has now evolved into a broader discussion about trust, reputation management, and creative control within the entertainment industry. Social media quickly became the primary battleground for competing interpretations. Cryptic posts from accounts believed to be associated with individuals involved in the documentary began circulating, referencing themes such as misrepresentation, selective storytelling, and unfinished narratives. Although rarely explicit, these messages were widely interpreted as indirect responses to the leaked footage. Fans and observers quickly connected these posts to the unfolding controversy, fueling speculation and deepening the sense that behind-the-scenes tensions were more significant than initially understood. As the debate expanded, audiences began splitting into distinct camps. One group praised the documentary for revealing what they believed to be hidden truths about relationships, industry dynamics, and decision-making processes in hip-hop. For them, the leaked footage represented transparency and authenticity, an unfiltered look behind carefully constructed public images. The opposing camp, however, warned that selective editing and fragmented presentation could easily distort meaning, leading audiences to draw conclusions based on incomplete or misleading information. This division intensified the debate, transforming it into a broader cultural discussion about truth, perception, and media responsibility. Fan communities also began revisiting historical material in an attempt to contextualize the current controversy. Past interviews, public statements, collaborations, and subtle remarks were re-examined through the lens of the leaked footage. Threads and discussions attempted to identify patterns, inconsistencies, or long-standing tensions that might explain the reactions now unfolding. While much of this analysis remained speculative, it contributed to a growing narrative that the current situation may not be isolated, but instead part of a larger and more complex history within the industry. This blending of historical context and present-day interpretation has created a dynamic environment where perception often competes directly with reality. Each new clip or interpretation becomes part of a larger puzzle, even when the full picture remains unclear. In this context, the absence of official clarification has only intensified speculation. Without definitive statements from key participants, audiences are left to construct meaning from fragments, often filling gaps with assumption rather than confirmed fact. The controversy has also triggered broader questions about editorial authority and creative responsibility in documentary storytelling. While documentaries are often perceived as objective records of reality, they are inherently shaped by editorial decisions. What is included, what is excluded, and how events are sequenced. When subjects are high-profile figures with established reputations, these decisions carry even greater consequences. A single framing choice can alter public perception, reshape relationships, and influence how audiences interpret entire careers or histories. Insiders suggest that the leaked footage may represent only a fraction of the full project. Artists are reportedly still reviewing their involvement, with some considering whether additional responses or clarifications may be necessary once the complete documentary is released. This ongoing uncertainty has created a tense environment in which any new development, whether another leak, a public statement, or an official release, could significantly shift the direction of the narrative. At the heart of the backlash remains the gap between participation and presentation. Many contributors believed they were part of a carefully structured narrative that would reflect their perspectives accurately and fairly. Instead, The emerging material suggests that certain moments may have been reframed or emphasized in ways that alter their original intent. In a culture where image and reputation are critical assets, even small deviations in context can carry disproportionate consequences. As clips continued to circulate, private concerns reportedly evolved into more formal discussions. Artists and their teams are said to have engaged in conversations about consent, narrative ownership, and the potential need for clarification before the documentary reaches wider audiences. These behind-the-scenes exchanges highlight the seriousness of the situation, suggesting that the controversy is not only about public perception, but also about contractual and ethical considerations in media production. Meanwhile, social media platforms have amplified every aspect of the debate. Fans and commentators analyze every detail, tone shifts, pauses, expressions, and sequencing, often reaching entirely different conclusions from the same material. Influencers and analysts contribute further interpretations, creating a layered ecosystem of commentary that continuously reshapes the narrative. In this environment, certainty becomes increasingly difficult to establish, as each perspective introduces new interpretations and possibilities. 50 Cent's role continues to be a central point of discussion. His reputation as a provocateur and narrative strategist ensures that any project associated with him attracts heightened scrutiny. Supporters believe his involvement strengthens the documentary's credibility by offering a candid and unfiltered perspective. Critics argue that his influence may shape the narrative in ways that reflect personal perspective or strategic framing. This duality contributes to the intensity of the current controversy, as audiences attempt to reconcile competing interpretations of intent and responsibility. Industry observers note that the situation may have long-term implications for how documentaries involving music artists are produced and received. Concerns about consent, representation, and editorial framing are now at the forefront of industry conversations. Some suggest that future projects may require more transparent agreements regarding footage usage and narrative structure to prevent similar disputes from emerging. As the discussion continues to evolve, it remains clear that the controversy is far from resolved. Each new development has the potential to reshape public understanding, whether through additional footage, official statements, or further social media reactions. The absence of a unified narrative ensures that speculation will continue to dominate, with fans and commentators interpreting every detail through their own perspectives. Ultimately, the situation represents more than just a disagreement over documentary footage. It reflects deeper tensions within modern media culture, tensions between truth and interpretation, participation and presentation, and individual control versus collective storytelling. In an environment where content spreads instantly and perception can shift within minutes, the stakes of narrative control have never been higher. What began as a series of leaked clips has now developed into a broader cultural conversation about how stories are told, who gets to tell them, and how those stories are received. The controversy continues to unfold in real time, shaped by fragments, interpretations, and reactions that may or may not reflect the full reality behind the scenes. Until clarity emerges, the debate will remain active, evolving, and unresolved. As the situation grows, one recurring theme has emerged. Control over narrative has become just as important as the events being portrayed. For many artists, the concern is not only what the footage shows, but how it will ultimately be interpreted once detached from its original context. In an industry built on reputation, branding, and public perception, even subtle editorial choices can have lasting effects. This is especially significant in hip-hop culture, where authenticity and legacy are central to an artist's identity. A single moment framed differently can influence how audiences understand an entire career. That is why the reaction to the leaked footage has been so intense. It is not just about isolated scenes, but about what those scenes represent in the broader story of each individual involved. Despite the ongoing speculation, no unified resolution has emerged. The lack of clarity ensures that the conversation remains open-ended. Every new leak, post, or reaction has the potential to shift public opinion once again. This constant state of uncertainty keeps the controversy alive, as audiences continue searching for definitive answers that have yet to arrive. Industry analysts suggest that the outcome of this situation could influence future documentary productions, particularly those involving high-profile artists. Greater emphasis may be placed on transparency agreements, editorial boundaries, and participant approval processes. The controversy has highlighted how quickly trust can erode when expectations around representation are not fully aligned. For now, the story remains in motion. There is no final version of events, only competing interpretations built from fragments of information. Fans continue to debate, artists continue to assess their responses, and commentators continue to analyze every available detail. Each layer adds complexity rather than clarity. What makes this situation particularly significant is not just the controversy itself, but what it reveals about the modern media environment. In a world where content spreads instantly and interpretation spreads even faster, control over narrative has become increasingly fragile. Once a clip enters the public domain, its meaning is no longer fixed. It becomes something shaped collectively by millions of voices. In that sense, the documentary controversy is no longer just about 50 Cent or the artists involved. It has become a broader reflection of how stories are created, shared, and transformed in the digital age. It highlights the tension between intention and interpretation, between private reality and public perception, and between individual authorship and collective meaning-making. As the situation continues to evolve, one thing remains certain: the final shape of this narrative has not yet been determined. What is seen today may be reinterpreted tomorrow, and what is assumed now may later be challenged by new information. Until then, the conversation will continue to expand, shaped by every new fragment that enters the public space.